It seems like every time you turn around,
Yeah.
there's another headline screaming for your attention.
It's a lot
It really is.
to keep up with.
So
Right.
today, we're going to take a breath
Mm-hmm.
and really dive deep into some of the most thought-provoking stories that are making the rounds.
Sounds good.
We're going to be talking about the link between language and thought,
Interesting.
the ethics of land ownership,
Okay.
and we're even going to get a glimpse into how different societies throughout history have viewed poverty.
I like it.
You ready to jump in?
I'm ready.
All right, let's go.
Let's do it.
First up, we have Edward Sapir.
Sapir?
Now, he's a fascinating figure in the world of linguistics
Linguistics.
and
Yeah.
anthropology.
Okay.
He believed that language and culture are so deeply intertwined
Interesting.
that even something like scientific language,
Mm-hmm.
which you think would strive for pure objectivity,
Right.
is still ultimately grounded in the everyday language, and therefore the culture of its users.
Oh, wow.
Makes you think, huh?
It really does.
His work, alongside his student Benjamin Lee Whorf,
I know, Worf.
led to the development of what we now call the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis,
Okay.
which suggests that language actually influences how we think.
That's wild.
Think about how different cultures have different words for colors.
Oh, yeah.
Could that actually impact how they perceive the world around them?
I mean, it makes sense.
This connection between language and thought also has some really interesting implications for AI.
Interesting. How so?
Can a system truly be considered intelligent if it doesn't understand the cultural context of language?
Right.
Could AI ever develop its own unique language reflecting a completely different worldview? It's definitely something to think about.
Totally.
Now let's shift gears and head over to Zimbabwe,
Okay.
where there's a fascinating conversation happening around land redistribution and the frameworks of collective responsibility and meeting collective needs.
I'm listening.
Now, this raises some really big questions about the ethical implications of land ownership and redistribution. How does a society balance individual rights with the needs of the collective?
Right.
I mean, these are questions that have relevance even in your own community.
Oh, for sure.
Have you ever considered how land ownership affects social dynamics
Absolutely.
and power structures?
Yeah.
It's definitely a topic that often sparks heated debate,
It does.
but it's one that deserves careful consideration.
I agree.
All right, next up, we have a piece that takes a really fascinating approach to understanding poverty.
Interesting.
It's an AI-generated essay that analyzes the plight of the poor across different historical periods.
Okay.
We're talking from Socratic Athens to the time of Christ,
Wow.
from the Elizabethan era to the Kantian Enlightenment.
A broad view.
Now, by examining how different societies and philosophical systems have viewed poverty,
Mm-hmm.
we can actually gain a much broader perspective on this enduring challenge.
That makes sense.
What lessons can we learn from the past to address poverty in our own time? Are there common threads that run through all of these different historical perspectives? It's an approach that really highlights the value of looking beyond our own time and place
Yeah.
to gain a deeper understanding of complex issues.
It's true.
Speaking of complex issues,
Yes.
let's turn our attention to the ever-evolving world of academia,
Academia. Okay.
where several articles are raising some really big questions about ethics and integrity.
I see.
One piece explores the potential for AI to be used for cheating,
Oh, wow.
specifically mentioning Microsoft Copilot.
Mm-hmm.
Another dives into the ethical considerations surrounding for-profit colleges.
For-profit colleges.
And yet another examines a specific policy that has been stirring up a lot of controversy in the academic community.
What's that?
It's Wiley's policy of transferring referee reports between journals without the original reviewer's consent.
Oh, interesting.
Now, these stories really force us to confront some really tough questions.
Yeah.
How do we balance academic integrity with these rapid advancements in technology? What is the role of money and profit
Mm-hmm.
in higher education?
Good question.
And how can we ensure that the pursuit of knowledge
Yes.
remains at the forefront of academic endeavors?
Really important.
I mean, these are issues that have the potential to really shape the future of education and research.
For sure.
So they're definitely worth paying attention to.
Absolutely.
Finally, let's take a moment to reflect on a story that might seem a bit out of place in a news roundup.
Okay.
But it's a reflection on the Sunday of the Word of God,
Okay.
which took place on January 26th, 2025.
Right.
This piece really delves into themes of reverence for sacred texts,
Mm.
unity amidst diversity,
Okay.
and Jesus' message of hope and liberation.
Interesting.
It even mentions Pope Francis presiding over Mass at St. Peter's Basilica,
Oh,
distributing copies of the Gospel of Luke,
okay.
and conferring the ministry of lector. Now, whether or not you subscribe to a particular faith tradition, these themes of unity,
Right.
hope, and liberation,
For sure.
they resonate so deeply with the human experience.
I agree.
How do these ancient texts actually speak to your own life and experiences?
A good question.
What role does faith, or spirituality more broadly, play in shaping your ethical framework? It's a reminder that even in the midst of a fast-paced news cycle,
Right.
there's still room for contemplation and reflection.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's amazing how interconnected these seemingly disparate news stories can be.
I know, right.
We've been talking about everything from language to land ownership to poverty.
Yeah.
But there's a common thread running through it all.
What's that?
The theme of responsibility.
Oh, interesting.
Responsibility to our communities, to
Yeah.
future generations,
Right.
to the planet itself.
Yeah.
One article that really highlights this theme
Okay.
is a piece exploring the work attitudes and ethical behavior of Filipino millennials.
Millennials. Okay.
It discusses how they're bringing a unique blend of traditional values and modern influences to the workplace. It's a fascinating example of how cultural values can shape our approach to work and responsibility.
Makes sense.
I wonder how those values might evolve
Yeah.
as younger generations grapple with the challenges of a rapidly changing world.
It's a good question.
That's a great point.
Thanks.
It's a constant process of adaptation and evolution
Right.
as we try to figure out how to apply our values in new and complex situations. Speaking of complex situations,
Oh.
there's an article here that really makes you think about the way we interpret data.
Oh, really?
It asks, do p-values exaggerate the evidence? And it's a critique of statistical significance tests, which are often used in scientific research.
Interesting.
This critique highlights the importance of critical thinking when it comes to data and evidence.
For sure.
Numbers don't always tell the whole story,
Though?
and we need to be careful not to blindly accept statistical findings without considering the context and potential biases.
Absolutely.
It's a reminder that even in the realm of science, there's always room for interpretation and debate.
There is?
Now, let's take a bit of a philosophical detour
Okay.
and explore the work of Alexandre Koshev.
Kosher.
He was a 20th century philosopher
Okay.
who had some really interesting ideas about self-cultivation and education.
I'm intrigued.
He used the German word Bildung
Bildung.
to describe this concept, which encompasses both personal growth and intellectual development.
Okay.
Koshev connected the concept of Bildung to a revolutionary context,
Interesting.
arguing that true self-cultivation requires a willingness to challenge existing norms and structures.
I see.
It's a perspective that makes you think about the purpose of education
Yeah.
and its potential to shape not only individuals but entire societies.
For sure.
Shifting gears a bit,
Okay.
we have a piece that takes a more personal look at the challenges of dementia.
Dementia.
It's a reflection on the difficulties of caring for loved ones with this condition,
Right.
as well as the broader societal implications of a world where dementia exists. Dementia poses some really profound ethical and emotional challenges
It does.
for individuals, families, and communities.
Absolutely.
It forces us to confront some really tough questions about aging, identity, and the meaning of a life well lived.
Yeah.
This article serves as a poignant reminder that we need to approach these issues with compassion,
Of course.
understanding, and a commitment to supporting those affected by this challenging condition.
For sure.
Let's circle back to the topic of poverty for a moment.
Okay.
We have an AI-generated essay that analyzes the plight of the poor across different historical periods,
Right.
from Socratic Athens to the Kantian Enlightenment. This comparative approach provides a unique lens through which to examine this enduring challenge.
It does.
It's both fascinating and sobering to see how the plight of the poor has persisted across centuries and cultures.
It is.
It underscores the need to constantly reevaluate our approaches to poverty
Right.
and find more effective ways to create a more just and equitable society. It seems like every time we peel back a layer of these news stories,
I know.
we uncover even deeper questions and challenges.
It's true.
This deep dive is certainly living up to its name.
It is.
Speaking of uncovering layers,
Okay.
let's delve into a few more news bites.
Okay.
Before we move on to part 3,
Some good.
first up, we have an article that examines the role of propositional logic
Propositional logic. Okay.
as a method of asking narrow and focused questions.
Interesting.
It argues that by breaking down complex issues into smaller, more manageable components,
Right.
we can gain a clearer understanding of the underlying arguments and assumptions.
I see.
This approach can be incredibly helpful when trying to navigate complex debates
Mm.
or analyze intricate systems.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that sometimes we need to take a step back
Okay.
and break things down in order to see the bigger picture more clearly.
Makes sense.
Next, we have an article that revisits a theme we've touched on before:
Okay.
the challenges that Filipino millennials face in relation to ethics.
Right.
It highlights the tension between traditional values and the demands of a modern global society.
Yeah.
This tension is something many of us can relate to,
Absolutely.
regardless of our cultural background.
It's true.
It's a constant process of navigating between established norms
Mm-hmm.
and evolving values,
Right.
trying to figure out what principles will guide our actions in a rapidly changing world.
It's a tough one.
It's a reminder that ethics isn't about rigid rules,
Okay.
but about ongoing reflection and adaptation.
I like that.
Now let's zoom out to a global perspective,
All right.
with an article exploring the relationship between globalization and ethics.
Globalization and ethics.
It argues that as the world becomes increasingly interconnected,
Mm-hmm.
we need to develop new ethical frameworks
Okay.
that account for the global impact of our actions.
I see.
Our choices no longer affect just ourselves or our immediate communities.
Right.
They have ripple effects that extend far beyond national borders.
It's true.
This realization calls for a shift in perspective,
Yeah.
from a narrow focus on individual or national interests
Yeah.
to a broader consideration of global well-being.
It's a big challenge.
It's a challenge that demands both individual responsibility
Mm-hmm.
and collective action.
For sure.
Let's wrap up this part of our deep dive
Okay.
with two final articles
All right.
that highlight the importance of thinking beyond our immediate human concerns.
Interesting.
One emphasizes the importance of environmental ethics,
Okay.
urging us to consider the impact of our actions on the natural world
Right.
and future generations.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that we're not just stewards of the planet for ourselves,
It's true.
but for all living beings, present and future.
Absolutely.
Our ethical obligations extend to the entire web of life,
Mm-hmm.
not just to our own species.
I agree.
Finally, we have an article that delves into the work of Charles Darwin
Darwin's
and his insights into the power of imagination.
imagination.
While Darwin is best known for his contributions to evolutionary biology, this article explores a different facet of his thinking.
Interesting.
It examines how Darwin's observations and theories can inform our understanding of human creativity
Okay.
and imagination.
Cool.
It's a reminder that even in the realm of science,
Mhm.
imagination plays a crucial role.
For sure.
It's the spark that ignites curiosity,
Right.
drives exploration,
Yeah.
and leads to new discoveries.
Absolutely.
So as we conclude part 2 of our deep dive,
Okay.
we find ourselves contemplating the interconnectedness of life,
Yeah.
the power of imagination,
Right.
and the ever-evolving nature of ethics.
It's a lot.
It's a lot to process, but that's what makes these deep dives so rewarding.
It is.
They challenge us to think critically, to expand our perspectives,
Absolutely.
and to engage with the world in a more meaningful way.
I agree.
As we wrap up this deep dive into the day's news,
Yeah.
one theme that keeps surfacing is this tension between individual freedom
Mm-hmm.
and collective responsibility. We've seen it in the discussions about land ownership,
Yeah.
AI ethics,
Mm-hmm.
even in the way Filipino millennials are navigating their work lives.
It's everywhere.
It's a constant balancing act,
It is.
figuring out where our personal freedoms end
Right.
and our responsibilities to the larger community begin.
Exactly.
And it's not just about finding the right balance.
Yeah.
It's also about recognizing how our individual choices ripple outward,
Yeah.
impacting the systems and structures that shape our world.
They really do.
Speaking of systems,
Okay.
one article that really caught my eye focuses on the world of online philosophy resources.
Philosophy resources.
It's a weekly update on new entries in the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy,
Right.
the Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy,
Mhm.
and other digital platforms that are making philosophical ideas more accessible than ever before.
It's pretty amazing.
These online resources have become such invaluable tools for anyone interested in exploring these complex questions,
Yeah.
engaging in intellectual debate.
It's great.
It's remarkable how technology is really democratizing knowledge,
It is.
fostering a global community of thinkers.
It really is.
It's like we're witnessing the birth of a new digital agora,
A digital agora.
a virtual marketplace of ideas
I like that.
where people from all walks of life can come together,
Yeah.
share perspectives, challenge assumptions.
It's powerful.
Another article that caught my attention dives into the latest episode of the Partially Examined Life podcast,
Okay.
which focuses on the work of Karl Marx.
Karl Marx.
Marx's critiques of capitalism and his ideas about economic justice
Right.
continue to resonate today as we grapple with issues like income inequality,
Yeah.
labor rights, the concentration of wealth and power.
Big issues.
His work encourages us to think critically about the economic systems that govern our lives.
For sure.
Imagine alternative ways of organizing society that prioritize human well-being over profit.
That's a good goal.
Marx's ideas might have been formulated over a century ago,
Yeah.
but they still have the power to spark debate and inspire action in the 21st century.
They do.
Now for a final thought-provoking twist.
Okay, hit me.
We have an article that tackles a question that's been pondered by philosophers and scientists for centuries.
Ooh, I like it.
Are consciousness and intelligence mainly about definitions?
Definitions.
The article argues that how we define these terms
Right.
can significantly influence our understanding of these really complex concepts.
That's true.
It's a reminder that language isn't just a neutral tool for describing the world.
No, it's not.
It shapes the way we think,
Yeah,
the way we perceive reality.
for sure.
And when it comes to these slippery concepts like consciousness and intelligence, clear definitions are essential
There.
for meaningful discussion and debate.
Absolutely.
If we're not careful about how we use and define our terms,
Right.
we might be limiting our own understanding of these really fascinating phenomena.
It's true.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the day's news,
Yeah.
here's a question to ponder.
I'm ready.
If language shapes our thoughts,
Okay.
are we truly in control of our own worldview?
Good question.
And what happens when AI enters the equation,
Right.
with its own unique ways of processing and generating language?
Yeah, that's interesting.
These are questions that are going to continue to challenge us
I think so.
as we navigate an increasingly complex and interconnected world.
For sure.
But that's the beauty of deep dives like this.
What's that?
They don't provide easy answers.
No.
They spark curiosity, challenge assumptions,
Right.
encourage us to keep exploring the mysteries of the universe.
I love that.
And who knows, maybe in the process of asking these tough questions,
Yeah.
we'll stumble upon new insights and perspectives
It's possible.
that will help us create a better future.
That would be great.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
My pleasure.
We hope it's left you with a sense of wonder,
Definitely.
a thirst for knowledge,
Yeah.
and a renewed appreciation for the power of ideas.
Absolutely.
Until next time,
See you then.
keep exploring,
Okay.
keep questioning,
Will do.
and keep diving deep.
You got it.